So let's welcome in our guest today, Chip Patterson, of course, a CBS Sports HQ college football analyst. He's also the host of the Cover 3 podcast. We love it. Chip, thanks so much for joining the show today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Great to be back with you. Hope you've been doing well. And, hey, listen, I'm cool to talk college football in May. Just call me up. I'm ready to go.
We knew you would be, chomping at the bit, actually. And so you guys did something cool at CBSSports.com, which is you ranked the top, 69 college football coaches. It was a panel that did it, and you were part of the panel, right?
Yeah, we got them. And it's just Power 5 coaches, which is something that's really kind of fun to discuss, because you almost have to remind fans that just to be on this list means you have one of the best jobs in all of college football. To be a sitting Power 5 head coach. For example, I think that Miami head coach Mario Cristobal, I've got him ranked around maybe 39 or so, and I think that Cristobal ended up around 36 or so. And I think that he is a perfectly fine, to this point in his career, based on his strengths, his weaknesses, the on-field results. He's kind of the replacement level Power 5 head coach, which again is good. It means that he is a good coach, but that when you consider the recruiting success with some of the on-field disappointments, that those balance each other out, and that he is fine. And a fine Power 5 head coach is still a very successful coach. It's just that, in my opinion, and in some of our rankings, you're just going to find yourselves well outside the top 25.
I see what's happened here, Chip. You went right to Miami. That has to be the fan base you've heard from the most since these rankings came out. They must be the fan base that's complaining the most.
Yeah, I would say I'm still waiting. So 1 through 25 just dropped. Okay, so we're still waiting to sort of to see what's going to be trickling in terms of some of the real outrage. But we've always got on the Cover 3 podcast, the episode we recorded this morning, was one of the conversations was, where are you different? Where on your ballot did you find yourself really straying from consensus? How about this? If we want to go ahead and throw out Chip to be some red meat for SEC fans, I think Lane Kiffin fits closer to the fine results than he does at number 14. And he's at number 14 in our rankings. I had Lane Kiffin at 28 because he's only finished in the AP Top 25 as a head coach twice. I guess that people really value those Conference USA Conference championships because it was only a 7-6 year at Tennessee. At USC, he got fired on the tarmac, really only one good year there. At Ole Miss, yes, he's been able to lead them to a New Year's Six bowl, but also they lost the last 5 games of the season last year. It's a real mixed bag for Lane Kiffin, who I like and I enjoy around college football. But when you're asking me to rank coaches, I got to look at something more than just me thinking that your Twitter presence is hilarious. Lane Kiffin is much more middle of the pack among his Power 5 peers than up at number 14, which is where the consensus rankings have him.
Yeah, if it's all about building a brand, Kiffin is 1. But that's a different list for a different time.
Chip, what did you do with the offensive geniuses on here? Like the Sarkisians and the Heupels and the Hugh Freezes. It strikes me, I don't know what you value as a coach when you're looking at it. Is it the X's and O's, or do you have to balance everything, recruiting and also player development? Because there's certainly guys, I thought Sark was pretty high. I was happy to see that. He was about 30, I believe.
37.
37. Okay, so higher than I expected, because he's obviously a great coach of what he does, but you're ranking a lot more than that.
Yes. So if you're the offensive genius on the level of, Lincoln Riley, which means you also have conference championships, college football playoff appearances, Heisman Trophy winners. Lincoln Riley, to me, was a no-brainer top 8 pick. I had him at number 7. I know that he is somewhere similar on the consensus rankings, but someone like a Hugh Freeze, a Gus Malzahn, a Steve Sarkisian, they all exist in that area where it is a bigger body of work that they are probably penalized for, where Josh Heupel I kind of see as a rising stock. Now, I had Josh Heupel at 21. That was ahead of Steve Sarkisian. That was ahead of Gus Malzahn, ahead of Hugh Freeze, ahead of Lane Kiffin. I just found myself having a lot of these known quantities occupying sort of the middle range, where there were some ones that were on the rise. How about this? Jeff Brom. I think that Jeff Brom getting Purdue to a Big Ten championship game is a really, really impressive accomplishment. He got the signature win against Ohio State. He had Purdue jumping up and being feisty against some of the best teams in the conference. At Western Kentucky, he was successful. And while Louisville immediately in 2023, I'm not exactly sure about this being the year that they make a run in the ACC, I think he will be successful. And so that's where I take somebody like a Jeff Brom. I take somebody like a Josh Heupel. I take somebody like Florida State coach Mike Norvell, who did get Memphis to the New Year's Six, but obviously at Florida State it has been more falling short of expectations than exceeding them. But that, again, is like a Heupel. I'm buying a little bit of the stock. I'm moving you ahead of someone who I think is a little bit more in quantity, a little longer. It's my process, the way that I'm steering out my rankings on my own personal ballot.
Chip Patterson is our guest, CBS Sports HQ college football analyst, host of the Cover 3 pod. We are talking about the CBS Sports list of the top 69 Power 5 college football coaches that were ranked. All right, the real reason we wanted to have you on, right? We can talk about Brom and all these other guys. No. Number one on the list. If Kirby Smart can't get one now, Chip, I mean, he'll never get it. You guys put Saban instead of Kirby Smart. I feel like Kirby deserved it as the back-to-back national champions.
The argument would be if you're going to do it every single year, then Kirby, with everything that he has, with the recruiting success. I mean, we just saw him get five-star quarterback Dylan Raiola.
Yep.
Like, good gravy. Georgia's just been able to win these national championships with the Stetson Bennett out there. Now they're getting what is probably the, without debate, top quarterback in the 2024 cycle. I mean, this is, buckle up. We are in for a Georgia dynasty. And that's where I think that if I am going to still, reward track records and look back at, all these different things, Nick Saban with the rings, Nick Saban still gets the one for me, but Kirby Smart does have a growing list of accomplishments, and who's got a longer runway, right? We know that Kirby Smart's in this for the long haul, and that Alabama East is certainly up and running.
So, by the way, we were surprised yesterday. Georgia's going for a three-peat this year. Chip, do you know the last team to three-peat?
So it's not modern era. It's like Minnesota in the Minnesota championship years, which, I mean, much love to the Golden Gophers, but I think that was a different era in college football. Yeah,
that was
in the world.
the 30s, pre-air raid. Let's put it that way. Air raid meant something completely different back then.
No, it did.
That's not very fun. Okay, we were also a little surprised. Clemson's Dabo Sweeney at number 3. When is he going to drop? Because it hasn't quite been there the last couple of years.
Right, but you're still winning championships. And I did find myself, pointing to trophy cases and hardware. I mentioned the AP Top 25 finishes. I like to be able to put together your resume. He's won 7 ACC championships over an 8-year span. He got Clemson to 6 straight college football playoffs. They made the national championship game in 4 of those. They won 2 of those. In the playoff era, it is very much without a doubt that his ability to consistently get Clemson competing for a championship at the end of the season over the last 10 years or so, that is still strong. Now, listen, you are not off in trying to forecast this. And my colleague Bud Elliott said that he docked Dabo Sweeney because he believes that Dabo Sweeney is not doing a good job of adapting to the transfer portal era, and that he would like to see Clemson be more willing to dip into the transfer portal to improve a roster. He has not been, prior to the Garrett Riley hire, as impressed with some of the staffing decisions that Dabo Sweeney has made as he's lost assistant coaches to head coaching jobs. But the way that I fill out the ballot, and clearly the way that some others do, just look at what he has won with that Clemson program, and it's very, very difficult to find other coaches who can come anywhere close to that resume.
Chip, we got less than a minute left here, but Deion Sanders, who is the talk of college football, of course, is at 55, so nestled right between Cincinnati and Vandy. Does he have to coach like a top 10 coach in order for Colorado to really have a great season, or are you looking at this team and thinking it's going to be a huge adjustment?
I think Deion Sanders is going to be well suited to be a leader for this team, but I am fascinated to see what happens when Deion Sanders and also this team face adversity, because we're dealing with 50 to 60 new players. When you look at the incoming freshmen, the transfer class, it is going to be a group that has not spent a lot of time together, and the roster itself is still going to be a group that is going to be, you throw it in the simulation model, it comes out 4-8. So when you're 4-8 and you're losing twice as much as you're winning, that means it's going to lead to some really difficult times, some tough weeks, some tough post-game press conferences, some tough post-game availabilities. When he was at Jackson State, he had a talent advantage. He had a talent advantage against pretty much everybody else in the conference. And I do think that going 26-5 or 27-5 as that program's head coach is a good reflection on what he can do at Colorado. I just think that the great experiment of this all, the transient nature of this all, what's going to happen when all these new guys who haven't spent much time together start to face some real adversity, that's where his leadership is going to be huge to be able to guide the Buffs through the season.
Chip Patterson, CBS Sports HQ college football analyst, the Cover 3 podcast. Chip, thanks so much. Love talking college football with you in May or any other month out of the year. We'll catch up soon.
Y'all be well.